Gentlemen, have you ever thought to yourself, I should say something truly awful to my partner today? No, it does not matter your age, relationship, or legal status. You have the potential to offend, piss off, and distress those closest to you. When it comes right down to it, you only have to blame yourself, guys. Welcome to another episode of Desperate Housewives Revisited, a spinoff of Contending at the Water Cooler, a podcast that wonders how much do you want to hear two guys wondering how much suburban housewives actually want to know about their neighbors. This week we are diving into season 1, episode 21, Sunday in the Park with George. I'm Joey Moser, and I'm joined by my co-host, Clarence Moy. Hello, Clarence.
Hello, Joey, and I cannot believe that we are on episode 21 already.
Yeah, this sucker's winding down, man.
This sucker is winding down indeed. But I'm very anxious to get to the end of this first season so we can find out, why did Mary Alice Young kill herself?
Mary Alice, what did you do?
So this title of this episode is probably, every week we tend to go back and look at the title and try to figure out, like, why does this title fit this episode? What are they talking about thematically? Did it come from a Sondheim song? If not, where? And kind of how does it fit? Would you agree with me that this is the easiest title of the season to figure out?
Yeah, this is the most on the nose title I think this season has ever done. So, while there is no song, I guess technically there is no song in Sunday in the Park. Well, no, that's a total lie. That's the opening song. Sunday in the Park with George. Yeah, there is a character named George. There is time spent with him, probably on a Sunday. No
in a park.
Dissection. Yeah, no dissection needed.
Nope, not at all. So this episode spends a lot of time with forward momentum on this plot. The last couple have dabbled, kind of felt like filler. Yet again, Lynette doesn't have any kind of involvement in the Mary Alice Young mystery.
No, please let her leave her house, guys. Like, it's also just like she can't have an issue related to her. Like, let her go. Let me see her go to a bank. Let me see her become the dry cleaner. Please, I'm begging you.
Well, Joey, remember, we saw her go to yoga and that didn't work out too well.
Well, no, she has to stay in because that is her punishment.
Yes, because she is a stay-at-home mom, in case you haven't noticed.
Wait, what?
Yes.
She is?
Should we start with Lynette?
Sure.
All right. So Lynette and Tom have had a dry spell of 10 whole days. 10 whole days.
Christ.
I felt horrible when I watched this episode. I'm like, 10 days is a luxury. What are you talking
about? I know. That's quite literally like, that's basically once a week. If you guys have that many kids and you are still finding time to basically do it once a week, go fuck yourself with your complaining. Fuck you.
So Lynette and Tom haven't had sex in 10 days. And they're at the point now where they need to schedule it because Tom is, super busy marketing man who's working in the office. He's not traveling as much, which is a plus. So that kind of didn't fly immediately with me because they're like, we haven't had sex in 10 whole days. But like 3 months ago, he was traveling all the time and she hadn't seen him for days on end. Anyway, maybe he wasn't gone for a week and a half. But anyway, and of course, last week we introduced Annabelle, the former lover who is now a threat to Lynette. And Lynette is feeling, yes, Lynette threat. Lynette is feeling all the angst and the anxiety of not being in the sack with Tom and worried about losing her husband. So there's some banter back and forth. I mean, this is light on plot here, so I'm going to skip over a lot of very painful scenes. But there's some banter back and forth. There's, Tom apparently carpools into work constantly. I thought he had a Cadillac at some point because guess not now. I don't know what happened to the car. Maybe they had to sell it for something. I don't know. So he's carpooling into work constantly, and it's always with Annabelle. And Annabelle comes in, dressed to the nines, and Lynette's got baby spit up on her. There's a whole scene where Tom comes home. He's promised to come home, and they were going to have sex that very night. And he comes home and he jumps her bones, but her sweater or whatever she's wearing, her sweatshirt smells like baby puke because apparently when Penny throws up on Lynette, she just wears it around all day. And
Projectile
I'm not
vomiting
saying,
everywhere.
yeah, right. And I'm not saying that stay-at-home moms aren't valid or aren't busy. Of course they are, but change your shirt. Like the baby sleeps, put the baby in the crib, change the shirt if she's got puke. Anyway, so she smells like puke. She agrees to, she takes off the sweatshirt, but apparently the tank top that she's wearing also smells like puke because it's seeped through. Um, and he says, "Nope, we'll muscle through it." And and then the
Just
baby
what you want to
cries.
hear.
Yeah, exactly. And then Penny cries. And then the boys are up and they're screaming that the baby's crying. So there's all this noise, and of course the moment's gone. Um, Later on in the episode, there's a very poignant moment, a very nicely written moment where Lynette basically says, there used to be a moment, there used to be a time where I could be covered in anything and it wouldn't stop you because you would rip my clothes off and nothing would come
Hmm.
between us. But now, they need help to get there, which is, you know, that's an aging marriage. They've been married a long
Yeah.
time. They got a lot of kids. So can't
God.
tell me they haven't had sex before. Um, so eventually Lynette goes out and buys a French maid costume. And she's expecting Tom to come home, at his normal time. He doesn't. He fails to call and say, "Hey, I'm running late. I'll be home at 10."
Yeah.
Uh, he comes home. Lynette's walking around the house drinking some wine. She has the sexy feather duster that she actually ends up cleaning with. A
Yeah.
couple of half-hearted swipes on the mantle and things like that. Um, I think she has a little bit too much to drink, and she passes out on the sofa, ass up. And, and
Hot.
then Tom finally comes home, and there's a coworker who has just flown in, and don't go to a hotel, come and sleep on my sofa. And of course, they get to the sofa, and there's Lynette in the maid's costume, ass up. And the coworker very comically says, "Yeah, sure, I'll take the sofa." So Tom makes fun of her the next morning, makes a couple of very bad maid puns and references to dress up and stuff like that. But, she's embarrassed. She's not having it, whatever. I think this is probably when she says the line about, there used to be a time when we didn't
Yeah.
need those kinds of things. So the episode closes with Tom coming home from work and giving her a kitchen timer. And she's like, "What's this?" And he's like, "I want you to come upstairs when the timer goes off." And she's like, "Okay, kids are asleep. It's fine." But she goes upstairs, timer goes off, which, by the way, being a parent, I immediately thought that timer is going to wake up those kids.
Yeah. The
Um,
risk.
and she opens the door, and what does she see but Tom Scavo in a thong, a Speedo,
The
right?
tiniest song that ABC would probably allow.
I I had erased, I had Eternal Sunshine that from my mind, I believe, because I did not remember seeing that. And
Also, like shaved as clean as a dolphin. That man
maybe
is.
that's why he needed the timing.
Jesus.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
good on Doug for Doug Savant for going through that, because that's a you got to be a confident man to do that on national television.
Right.
And he's not, he's got a dad bod. Well, what television people would call a dad bod, which normal dads would be like, "I'd kill to look like that."
I know, right? I think that
Um,
actually that image right there is what blinded me to this specifically, is what blinded me to, it's like, oh yeah, Tom Scavo, he's a good guy. Yeah, because I had the flashing image of uh Doug Savant in that, skimpy little number. flashing in my brain, and it took a while to get to it. And I saw all the shit that he did before. So yeah.
Yeah. So they start to make out, and he's like, let's turn off the lights. And she's like, I'm leaving it on.
Yeah.
And that is essentially the bulk of the Lynette and Tom portion of this episode. Just to underscore, she's a harried stay-at-home mom, and now she's not getting any. So they're at crisis point.
Where did you get that she's a harried stay-at-home mom? Is
It,
that
it,
a subtext that I missed?
it's
I'm not
it's a
sure.
very subtle
Very subtle. Um,
commentary. Yes.
every time that they mention Annabelle, she's seen very briefly in this episode, but now I kind of wish it was played by Annabelle the doll. Wouldn't that just be funny? And they don't explain it. She's still as creepy as shit as ever. She just like trots in and she's like, "Hi, Tom," and then she just like, and then she's like, "I'm here to with advertising, work in the copier." And Lynette is worried that her husband is in flagrante with this doll. But yeah, no, just the little needlings that flop around in my brain when I watch this. So I'm glad I got that out for the tens of you to hear.
All right. Favorite moments of Lynette's plotline?
The
Do you
speedo.
have one? The Speedo,
The
of
speedo.
course.
It's not even Lynette. I mean,
Or Lynette. All right. Joey, what's going on with Gabrielle?
oh, Gabrielle. So we found out at the end of, well, we knew. She just found out. She caught up with us that she has messed with, or she has tampered with pills. Carlos has tampered with her birth control pills. And so at the beginning of the episode, that scab is not healed over, obviously, because that's a really horrible, treacherous piece of shit thing to do, gentlemen.
There are plates flying, Joey.
There are plates flying. Yes, that's how treacherous it is. And she does not believe Carlos that it wasn't him until he sort of remembers, hey, my dead mom can be used for something here. And he's just like, oh my God, it had to have been my mom. And at first, Gabby was just like, you're fucking crazy. And he's like, no, remember, she wanted us to have a baby. You bought those pills in bulk, which I think is hilarious. And I don't know if people actually do that. I feel like that would be, I don't know if that's dangerous or whatever. But he was just like, yeah, I am so sorry. He completely pivots. And she says something funny like, she's like, oh, that bitch. And so we think that she buys it. And she says that she feels some morning sickness coming on. And when it hits, she wants to be standing on Carlos's mother's grave. So the next time we see Gabby, she runs up to John, who is doing some gardening work. And she's like, hey, I have some news that might upset you. I'm pregnant, and there is a possibility that the baby might be yours. And I don't know, for a 19-year-old kid, rightfully freaks out. I think one of my favorite lines of the episode, I have to settle on whether it is my favorite line of the episode. He says, I can't even afford my new dirt bike. It's like, okay. So
Mrs. Solis?
No, John says that.
No, I know, but he probably follows
yes.
that up very closely with
Yeah.
Mrs. Solis.
Mrs. Solis. Of course.
The mother of my child.
The mother of my child.
That I want to
Ma'am.
marry, and I still don't know her first name.
What if he thinks her first name is Mrs.?
He's not bright.
He's not bright.
No. I don't know that he's Travis
in...
Kelsey dumb, but he's not bright.
Well, we don't know if John can read. We'll see.
Travis Kelsey might have dyslexia. Let's not make.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I'm an asshole. Okay, I did not hear that part. All I heard was the quote that said that he had. Okay,
it's not confirmed, and okay. I think it may be a Swiftie plot to make him look smarter than he really is. Anyway, sorry, we are way off track. Go ahead.
So Gabby wants to make sure that her young former paramour is protected by her angry, right? I was about to say rightfully so husband. I mean, she did cheat on him, but also he did some really horrible stuff too. Spousal abuse, embezzlement, other stuff. Um, so she wants to protect him from Carlos, and she doesn't want his parents to get involved. And he was just like, "Oh, probably should have used a condom." And when I watched that, he was like, "Oh, we should have used a condom." I was like, "You didn't use a condom?" Okay, but all right. Um, so Gabby is sitting on the porch later. She's eating salsa and chips. It's the only time that Gabby would be seen in public eating a carb because she's pregnant. And John barrels up to the house. This is while Carlos is in the bathtub, which, by the way, getting to it, well, I'll get to that in a second. But okay, so John storms up to the house and he says that he basically needs to, we need to come clean. We need to tell the truth. I need to talk to Mr. Sully's man to man. And Gabrielle's like, "Hey, you're stupid." And dumb. And John almost picks up a well, I guess before that, Gabrielle goes inside. Carlos is about to get out of the tub, which, by the way, way to almost have Carlos's balls in the shot.
That was
and they're
very delicately planned.
Also, I thought about this is like the third or fourth time that we have seen a man hastily get out of this pedestal bathtub where they're just sloshing water everywhere. And I was like, no wonder people slip and fall and crack their head open in this house. But anyway.
No wonder gay cablemen fall.
Oh my God. But there's also, so he gets out and she's like, "No, you should, I want to get back in. I'm pregnant and horny, and but we have one up on the Scavos. We don't have to put it on our calendar." And so Carlos gets back into the water. There's some weird playtime intercut with a washcloth and squirting water as John is determined to get into the house. And he picks up a chair and almost throws it through a window when then Gabby takes said salsa and throws it in his face. He stumbles backwards, topples over the railing and into the bushes.
Well, and it's salsa that she has spiked with an enormous amount of hot sauce.
Yes.
All of her taste buds are dead. Yes. And she can't get anything hot enough. So she's used a half a bottle of Texas Pete or something like that, trying to make the sauce hotter. And it's so hot that it has literally scalded his eyes.
Well, he says, this actually might be my favorite line. It could sound like a throwaway line, but I think it's really funny. There's actually a couple lines in here that I really love. I think I know what is going to be your favorite line of the episode, but he says, "Oh my God, it feels like acid." And Gabby says, "Really? I've been finding it so bland." And she's like trying to, make sure she didn't blind him. So she basically tells him, "Hey, you're poor. And I grew up poor, and that sucks. And I didn't like that. So the thing is, my husband, as shitty as he can be sometimes, after we get through this, we're gonna have money, and he'll be able to pay for lessons of this and that and recitals, and he'll give our child, the child that I don't really want in the first place, a life that I never had." And Carlos, I guess his bath time boner, now shrunken down enough, wondering where the hell is my wife, comes out and says, "Hey, what the hell are you doing here?" And John makes up an excuse about maybe replanting some flowers. And Carlos says, like, "Oh, the new guy is nowhere near as good as you. You're basically like family." To when I was watching it, my husband Jason went, "Whoa!" Just like, there's that writing, jab, jab, jab. And then in the epilogue, you see Gabby and Carlos share a peck. As Gabby notices, I don't know. That's basically it. Very contained, I guess, storyline for Gabby and Lynette for this. They don't get to hear anything about murder.
No, they don't. I will the piece of this that I find kind of disgusting is that we kind of brushed past this a little bit earlier, but we've always talked about what a in this 20-year rewatch of
Mhm.
Desperate Housewives, the first season, Carlos just comes off more and more like a monster, like a total monster
Sure.
who would absolutely be the villain of the piece this year, would not have funny little side, be treated like a comic anti-hero almost, though this is the way
Mhm.
that he was 20 years ago. Now he would just be straight up villain, which, by the way, they had that going away party. When is he actually going to prison? Like,
I know
they
they're
already had
taking
the
their
party.
time.
They are really taking their time. Um, he sinks to a new low this episode because he blames his dead mother.
Right?
Like,
God.
and by the way, continuity problem here. She says she's going to go and throw up on Mama Solis's grave.
Mhm.
Is she going to go throw up on a mausoleum? Because remember, she doesn't have a below the ground grave. She's got giant mausoleum that he got on discount.
What if there was just like a cutaway of Ava Longoria, just like blah, like Exorcist, just painting the sides of
just
the whole building,
just spewing vomit everywhere. But
looking like fierce and hot and couture, and then she just like dabs her mouth and like trots away in her little high heels.
well, I mean, you see what I'm saying, though. The way that she reads that line, it is as if she's going to go and stand over the grave
Yes,
and
yes,
vomit straight down
yeah,
on the grave. But remember, it is not straight down. It is big.
all over the walls. Yep.
Anyway, um, yeah, it's there. It's there. I don't have much else to say about this that we haven't already said. The
Yeah.
whole thing with John is gross. John going berserk is just weird, I think, particularly the point where he wants to throw a chair through the window. Like that
Yeah.
is it's strange, right? And
Yeah.
and what did he think Carlos was going to do? I guess we'll find out next episode. Dun,
Also,
dun,
just
dun.
like if he was gonna do that, what a great way to introduce that your wife was having an affair. Let me also destroy your property.
Yeah. It's crazy. Should we jump to Susan?
Sure.
All right. So we don't have sad Susan this time. We have Susan on a mission.
Very good.
She, as you remember from the end of the last episode, she just so happened to find out of all of the private detectives in Fairview
Yeah.
the very same Mr. Shaw, played by Richard Roundtree, that Paul Young used to figure out who sent Mary Alice that note on that special stationery where they almost killed Edie. She learns from Mr. Shaw that, of course, Mr. Shaw went back to Paul and said, "Hey, Susan Meyer has hired me. Can't believe she picked me. You're lucky. What do I do?" And Paul
Yeah.
spins the same lie that he fed Susan previously. And so Mr. Shaw comes back to Susan and says, Dana had mysteriously died, and Mary Alice changed her name because he brings out the birth certificates where she was born as Angela, but then she had a fight with her aunt. And I thought that was
Uh,
oddly specific
yeah.
that the private investigator would somehow know that she'd had a personal fight, like that's written on the petition to change your name. Had a
I
fight with
know.
my aunt.
I'm a
Reason.
tween. I need you to write down this information.
So anyway, but Susan, not being bright, buys that hook, line, and sinker. But she sees across the street Mike walking out of his house, as she often does, and she asks Mr. Shaw, "Could you look into Mike's background and see what's going on there? Figure out like she loves him obviously, and she wants to know what's going on with Mike." This is, of course, after she has finally gotten rid of her mother, Sophie, played by Leslie Ann Warren, because Morty, played by Bob Newhart, has come to propose with his dead wife's ring, 3 carat diamond. You
Yeah.
think that's not a good thing, right? Morbid.
Yeah.
He
I
probably
mean,
should have sold it. Yeah.
yeah. Kind of weird.
So
Kind of weird, Morty. Kind of
yeah.
weird.
So he whisks her away, and we see later on in the episode he buys her a much bigger diamond. And And of course, it costs a lot. I assume that he probably could have pawned his dead wife's ring and used that to pay for it. I don't know. Maybe Morty is a sentimental man. Um, but this is the end of the 4 episode arc of Leslie Ann Warren. And I do have to ask, do you think at this point they kind of thought Leslie Ann Warren would probably be Emmy nominated for guest actress?
I had actually forgotten how much, I won't say like how much she was on this season, but when we started the season, I assumed that she was like in 2 episodes and gone, but she just keeps popping up.
Yeah.
So I think they probably thought that.
Yeah, and she was not, because the only two that were nominated for the first season were Catherine Jostein, who won, and Lupe Ontiveros, Mama Sonis.
Mm-hmm.
So no Leslie Ann Warren. So back to Susan. Mr. Shaw actually does his work, and he says, he killed a cop. He gives her the folder, and she can't read it. So Julie reads it, and Susan says, "Give me if there's bad news, give it to me softly. Give it to me. Yeah. Spin it as best you can." And Julie's like, "Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is he killed a cop. What's the good news? Well, there is no good news. Killed a cop." And so they look at a picture that Mr. Shaw has included in this packet of information of his perp walk. Very, very, very early Photoshop days, I think.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, in the back of the picture are Noah and his other daughter, who's Kendra. And Susan obviously knew Kendra because she thought Kendra was a former flame of Mike's who was having an affair with him. So she decides I don't know how she figures out where Kendra lives, but she finds Noah's big estate and she goes to visit. There's almost a meet cute moment where with a very large security guard. Yes. Who throws her down on the foot of the car and tries to get her to leave. Kendra comes up and Susan goes into Noah's house. Now, Noah, is the man that hired Mike to go and figure out where his daughter Deirdre was. We did find out that Deirdre is dead. But he spins this lie to Susan and says Mike was a drug addict. Basically tells her Mike's a bad guy. Don't have anything to do with it. He lies about the whole story. Kendra, we think, wants to tell the truth. But after Susan leaves, she confronts Noah and says, "Why did you do that to her? You've got to let this go. Deirdre's already dead. It doesn't matter who killed her." And he's like, "Well, Mike will never figure out the truth if he's constantly obsessed with Susan. So, he wants to keep them apart." But Kendra follows Susan out to the car and tells her a portion of the truth. Tells her that Mike killed the cop out of self-defense. The cop was bad. And Mike was really an innocent guy. So Susan is overjoyed at finding out this information. And really, it was just the tiniest little bit of information that she needed to just completely give in to him. And she drives home and runs across the street to him. And he's standing on his front porch. And she runs up there and she throws herself to him and they kiss. And that brings Susan and Mike back together after several episodes of turmoil and sad Susan. We can officially say goodbye to sad Susan.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Those shots in the courthouse of the Universal Studios backlot. Love that.
Yes, the Back to the Future courthouse.
You see like that the airbrush like Christopher Lloyd hanging from the minute hand. It's like, what? There's like a studio tour going on in the background. Oh gosh. Damn.
Bree Scott.
Just running around to the back. Like, we should get that guy to help solve Mary Alice. Seems with it.
Or Michael J.
Uh,
Fox pulls up in the DeLorean and says, "I
yeah.
could take you back."
What a weird. Imagine this in 2005, that crossover happens, and then like people are tuned in to the finale of Desperate Housewives, this twisty, campy show, and all of a sudden they like go back in time and knock the gun out of Brenda Strong's hand. That would have been so confusing and canceled. Also, it'd be
To
canceled.
And to those of you who aren't familiar with our regular Contending at the Water Cooler podcast, this is what we call a massive tangent that we like to go on from time
I
to
don't know.
time.
I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean,
You have two titles, the Short King and the King of
King
Tangents.
of Tangents? Short King of Tangents. Yeah.
All right,
Um.
pulling us back into line. Did you want to comment further on Susan?
No.
All right. I'm kind of holding the Paul and Felicia Tillman segment for last, I guess, because there's a lot that goes on there that we can't sort of shoehorn into another housewife. It's just kind of it's the rarity where we've got our own subplot kind of operating in an insular world on its own that doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. So we'll need to cover that after we talk about Bree.
Yeah, so Bree, who one could probably assume is a usually one of the smarter people on the show, um, usually cares what other people think. Her and George are having dinner, or no, not dinner, lunch together very publicly. And at a restaurant where she's literally feeding him like a creepy baby bird.
Was
Um,
it lunch? I think it
was
was
it
dinner.
lunch? Was it
I think it
dinner?
was dinner.
Okay.
I can't
Uh,
imagine Edie going out to lunch like that.
okay. Yeah, you're probably right. Um, so she says that the marinara sauce basically that she has, reminds her of her trip to Italy. And he's like, "Oh, you've been to Italy?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm worldly, you stupid, creepy fuck. I went there with my husband before the kids were born, since it was, so much easier to do that." So he is just like, "Hey, maybe we should go to Italy together." And this is after she says something where she tells him that she's going to stop drinking wine, where she's basically like, it was so much easier to have fun back then, or something along those lines. And she's like, "Oh, I should probably put this wine down," I guess, foreshadowing to, alcoholism that we will see in later seasons.
Yeah,
um
that's come up quite a bit actually, where
yeah.
they definitely very subtly placed that in this season, where she, I think even like one of the first times that Rex walks out, she goes to
Oh
sit down
yeah.
in the kitchen and she's just pouring that wine.
Hmm. I probably should not mention I'm also having a glass of white wine right now. um I was worried if you'd be like, "Joey, it's 8 o'clock in the morning." um so as she's feeding him like a creepy baby bird, she doesn't know he's a creepy baby bird yet. She notices that Edie is in the same restaurant within her eye line, basically staring at her. And Edie is just like, "Hey, I see you, you crazy, crazy lady. I can't believe you're doing that." Um, Next time we see Bree, she's at home with Rex. They're talking about maybe Rex getting a new cardiologist, as starting to worry about his health and he needs to get like a second opinion. And then I think they're going out to the car or something, and they're running late, and she sees Edie walking down the street with a cup of coffee, which makes me never mind, I won't say that. But they're walking down the street. She's like, "Oh, I gotta go. I'm gonna go talk to Edie." And she's like, "Hey, you don't know what you saw. That's just my friend." And Edie's basically saying, "Okay, you're having an affair. I don't care what you're doing. Like, good for you. He cheated on you with that lady who likes to spank him. Time to settle the score." And Bree says that she's like, "Oh no, we just talk. I just talk with him. I talk about my hopes and my dreams and my desires and all this." And Edie's just like, "Yeah, you're having an affair. Whether you're not having sex with him, you're basically having an emotional affair." And the scene and interaction ends with them where she's like, "Why don't you just talk to your husband?" So, pseudo Brie light, I guess, this week. Brie is knitting, I guess, little booties for Gabrielle's baby. She's saying that she's gonna make them green because that way she can use them now, whether it's a boy or a girl. Yay, gender is a social construct. Um, Bree wants to start doing things again as a couple, and Rex is very much enamored with his
Dying.
crossword puzzle. Yeah, and also dying. And she sort of speaks very lovingly about the trip that they took to Italy. And she says, don't you remember it? And he says, I remember sweating like a pig and losing all of our savings, which is damn, dude.
Yeah.
You're like, read the room. Can you not, like, that's the second episode in a row, probably more than that, where Bree's just like, hi, say something nice and sweet and loving and reminiscent and nostalgic about our marriage together. And he's basically like, no, don't want to do that. Um, so that's kind of the end of their interaction, as far as I can tell. Like, I think in the epilogue we see her looking a little worried out, looking on worried. But that's, I mean, we're gonna get more of something will happen to Rex, I guess we will say. But yeah, that's we get her on a little bit of a cliffhanger, I think.
So there's she's eating dinner with George,
Mhm.
and she's got the pearl choker on.
Yeah.
She wears that somewhere else, doesn't she?
Yeah, we've seen her wearing that before.
Okay. Because I kind of felt like she may have worn that when she was playing dominatrix with Rex.
I actually kind of thought, I mean, we never see her doing it, but find it. We see, well, that might be, she wears pearls a lot.
Yeah, she does. Because she is a Republican woman. Which brings me to my favorite line of the
I know
episode.
it.
Which,
I know exactly what it is. She says,
it's
the one where Edie says something to her.
Yes, it is. So why don't you say what it is?
She said, you could sleep with anyone. You could sleep with anyone and you choose a pharmacist. You're such a Republican.
That is exactly it. Good job. You win.
Yay!
What's your favorite line?
I think my favorite line is about the
John.
Yeah, about the salsa being bland. I don't know. It's a good combination of it. It's a sort of throwaway line, but Ava Longoria can make it funny.
She commits to it very well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so again, I mean, I guess all four plot lines are very self-contained.
Yeah, we have not seen them together. I mean, we saw them together in the last episode
at the going away party.
At the going away party, but it has been quite a while since we got what'd you hear about Mary Alice? Like, all right, we haven't had that in a long time.
Agreed. So, in terms of Mary Alice, we do have a couple of very painful, I will say, critical scenes here dealing with Paul Young, Zach, and Felicia Tillman. We find out, and I'm glad that I thought that this had happened, and I thought Paul was doing it several episodes ago, but we find out that Paul drugs Zach with a like tranquilizer or something, with some sort of sleep inducing thing, and basically that's his plan, is to keep him doped up until he can basically leave in the middle of the night and drag Zach away from his one true love, Julie Meyer, who doesn't want anything to do with the school shooter aesthetic. And shocking. And Felicia wants to have Zach back over for cookies and milk or dinner. I'm not sure what, but she calls over there and she leaves a message on the answering machine. Welcome 2004. And Paul picks up the phone and he's like, Zach's not here and you should stop calling. Hang up. So that's exactly how you get rid of Felicia Tillman, by telling her what she shouldn't do, because the next time you see her, she's walking in the front door.
Right. Jesus.
And
dude. He has learned nothing.
He's learned nothing. He's a terrible, terrible villain.
Yeah.
So she discovers she can't find Zach. Paul's not there. She goes upstairs and she discovers Zach semi-conscious, unconscious in his bed. She does, remember she's a nurse, so she does the
Mhm.
vitals. Then she snoops until she finds the worst hidden bottle of pills in the oven mitt, because nobody uses an
Right.
oven mitt apparently in the Young
No,
household.
guess not.
Um, and discovers that Paul has been drugging Zach. So she she says to Zach, "I'm sorry," and she slaps his face, which wakes him slightly, and she takes him over to her house. Um, Paul comes over to pick him up, and he's pissed. She left him a very nicely written note
I know,
in terms
great
of
penmanship,
calligraphy. Yes,
right?
exactly.
I wrote that
Very,
down. I just wrote great penmanship.
very, very nice penmanship. Good job. So she leaves him a note that she has Zach, and Paul comes knocking on the door. She says it's open, and he comes in. She's sitting at the table, Martha's kitchen table, and she's got milk and cookies right there. And he says, "Where's Zach?" She's like, "He's upstairs, and that's where he's going to stay, basically, because I know you've been drugging him, and I know you killed my sister, and you need to sit down. We need to have a chat." And she pulls out like photocopies of Martha's
Yeah.
diary where she says basically yes, Martha Huber has painstakingly written every last boring detail about everyone on this street. And it's all about how they stole Dana. And that's how she you know, knew that she was what Mary Alice did, thus
Yeah.
the note. Paul says this is the ramblings of a crazy person, and while that may be true, two things can be true,
Right.
essentially. Um, I don't know. He vaguely threatens Martha, and Martha basically says, "Don't fuck with me." Like, I'm not having it.
Yeah.
So she tells him that he needs to leave. She wants him gone. And he said, "Well, that's been my plan all along." No, no, no. You need to leave, and you need to leave Zach here with me because Zach needs to be
Yep.
away from you. And he's like, not doing it. And essentially, she convinces him to do it. Um, and then he feels defeated, I guess, or he's going to come back and retreat and attack
Mhm.
from a different vantage point. And she is very relieved to see him leave, and she pulls a butcher knife out from under the table because she was ready and armed because he did kill her sister.
Yeah,
So
she
that
says
is it,
like,
right?
yeah, he's like, Paul just wants to say goodbye, and she was just like, you didn't let me say goodbye to my sister.
Nope,
So,
nope, 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 nope.
and I kept thinking about like if that would have happened and Paul would have left. Like, can you imagine? She's like, all right, Zach, let's go comb my wigs now. Like, can you just imagine what their time would be like together? Um,
Zach
but
would
yeah.
love it though. Zach
Oh
would love
yeah.
it.
Yes. Um, yeah, I feel like that is a real of anything from the episode, what would be like a water cooler moment? That interaction would have been the water cooler moment of the week, probably. Because we're getting so close to revealing everything at the end of this season. Um, that I don't know. I feel like there's some like mounting tension with the narrative. We have two episodes left, really, but the big grand mystery is slowly and very surely getting revealed bit by bit.
Like I said last week, all the pieces are there.
Yeah.
So
Can you imagine though? Like we talk about the show through 2025, and I think I mentioned last week or the week before about how this is a true water cooler show, and you didn't. I think it was when we were talking about the commercial about how last week the commercial with the little 30-second spot really spoiled all the like juicy stuff of the episode, but we didn't have. You didn't have it like playing on Twitter, and you didn't see it on social media, and you didn't have people
right.
messaging you links on YouTube, stuff like that. So I feel like something that I continually think of as we talk about this is sort of like our attention span to like if you miss the commercial, you miss the commercial and you just had to tune into the next week's thing. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's I do miss television like this. I mean, some shows still run run one episode at a time and give spoilers for the next episode.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
this was like you barely had like TiVo back then, right?
Yeah.
Remember TiVo?
Hmm.
Very few people had DVRs. You really just had to be sitting there in front of the TV at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night to watch Desperate Housewives. Or you could record it, and you could record it and watch it the next night and feel safe in that you couldn't go online and like 35 seconds later, everything was spoiled for you.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it's a, it's a, I long for the days of yore in that, that scenario.
Yeah.
Um,
Everyone sucks, and they're just so giddy to um
to
spoil
spoil.
stuff
Yeah.
for you. It's
I
like,
don't,
okay,
I
good for
don't
you.
understand it. Now, that said, we have been spoiling large swaths of this show for people.
I know.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Um, what else have we got?
I think that's pretty much it for this week. I'm trying to think if there's another line that I think that's yeah, those are the I think yeah, we covered the episode. I don't think there's another line that I really like. Let's just see if there's anything else.
You're going to like the picture of this post, by the way, Joey.
The Tom Savant in the Speedo.
Uh,
Yes.
maybe.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. Should
Very
we
good.
all right, let's get the hell out of here. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast and our main podcast, Contending at the Water Cooler, on your favorite podcast app. I must say we were almost done with Desperate Housewives Revisited. Guess that was part of another podcast recording, I was going to say. We will return next time with our recap of episode 22 that I already forgot the title of.
Well, it's goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now. God, I'm really hitting a home run with this outro. Yeah,
It's all right.
it's going from one of the most obvious Sondheim references to one of the most just saw the picture to one of the most obscure. So I think it's one of the most
And
random ones.
we get new neighbors.
Oh, that's that next episode. That's not the
That is
finale.
next. It is next episode.
I guess I have too much to do in the finale.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. It is the next episode.
all right. Well, from both me and Clarence and our new neighbors, I guess they move in the middle of the night. We'll see you next time on Wisteria Lane.